So what is the difference between a daydream and an imaginal act that leaves impressions? Is there a difference between these two? Why is it that I daydream about my desires all the time, but I never see them come to fruition? If the aim and objective here is to imagine our wish fulfilled, and I'm doing that, but not seeing results, why is that? These are just a few of the questions that I get on the topic of daydreams and imaginal acts. And I've touched on this in previous videos, but I really want to dedicate a video to this topic and really make the distinction here, because the short answer to if there's a difference between a daydream and an imaginal act is yes, and it's an important one. And unfortunately, because of this misunderstanding, a lot of people are imagining in a way that's not going to be the most effective. So if you are curious to have a better understanding of daydreaming and imaginal act that leaves subconscious impressions, and how to utilize your imagination to successfully manifest what you want, then stick around, because this video is absolutely for you. By the way, hi, I'm Missy Renee, and on this channel we talk all things manifestation and the law of assumption. So if those are topics that you want to learn more about, then definitely be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon for notifications, and if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're interested in any of my resources, such as coaching programs, workshops, or masterclasses, I got links to all of those down in the description box below, so don't forget to check that out. So there's a lot to cover in this video, so let's go ahead and dive on in. Because this distinction between daydreams and imaginal acts that become 3D facts is important and sadly misunderstood. In fact, I would argue this is one of the main reasons that many people are failing to see their desires materialize. Because most people, when they are applying these teachings, when they are imagining, are simply daydreaming. So what exactly is the distinction here? An imaginal act that leaves an impression is thinking, feeling, and experiencing your desired outcome as if it's taking place right now, in this present moment. It is thinking from already having or already being what you desire to be. And the reason that we want our imaginal acts to feel very present moment is because it should feel like an experience that we are having right now. Unlike with daydreams that often feel very future thinking. A daydream is thinking of your desire from that place of separation. There is usually that degree of longing and wishing and hoping for something to take place in the future. Although it typically feels good in that present moment, daydreaming can also come with that tinge of melancholy or sadness because it feels like something we are missing. Oftentimes, when we come out of a daydream, it feels like we're being smacked in the face by the physical 3D senses, and it feels very much like there's an absence of what you just imagined. Simply put, daydreaming feels like a fantasy, and what we are being taught to do here is to imagine as though it is real right now. And because I know that this can still seem very confusing, I'm going to break down some scenarios in which you can tell that you are daydreaming. If you are imagining something and then looking and waiting for 3D validation, you are likely daydreaming. If you are imagining something from a place of longing, and that longing is not satisfied upon opening your eyes, you are likely daydreaming. If you are imagining something taking place in the future, you are daydreaming. If what you're imagining still feels like a fantasy or a pipe dream, you are most certainly daydreaming. And that's really what it boils down to. When we daydream about something, it doesn't feel real to us. It doesn't feel like a fact. It doesn't resonate. Daydreaming is essentially wishful thinking. It's fantasizing. And because what we are imagining feels very unrealistic to us, it feels very far off or unattainable for us, we are not changing our state. With daydreaming, we are still remaining very much conscious that we are somebody who is absent our desire, that we are still the person who does not have what we want. All too often, daydreamers don't feel that sense of satisfaction. In fact, it could feel like quite the opposite. Instead, it makes them feel wistful and hoping and longing, frustrated with their current circumstances, and overall just generally conscious that they do not have what they want. Daydreams can sometimes make us feel even worse when we come out of them. than before we went into them. And sadly, it is way too common for people to just daydream about their desire instead of actually go to the end. Neville Goddard referred to this as the greatest mirage of mankind. What we refer to as daydreaming, Neville called perpetual construction and deferred occupancy. Basically, we are always constructing these states. We are always thinking of our desires. We're always thinking about what we want and how to get it instead of actually going there, instead of actually dwelling in that state in your mind, instead of thinking and acting and feeling from the place of already having what you want. When we're daydreaming or fantasizing about our desire, it's going to leave us feeling very frustrated and unsatisfied. In contrast, a deliberate, successful imaginal act is going to neutralize that longing, and it's going to leave you feeling very deeply satisfied and fulfilled. Because you are occupying that state, you are impressing onto the subconscious mind that you now have what you ultimately desire. And with that having comes that inner sense of satisfaction. This is why with imaginal acts, we inevitably reach a place where we no longer have to imagine it. We no longer have to reach a place where we feel satisfied, because at a certain point, there's nothing left to do. You already have it. It is already done. And I want to give you guys a quote from Joseph Murphy, another brilliant New Thought leader who was taught by the same mentor as Neville Goddard, and hear what he had to say about daydreaming. Many people indulge in daydreaming, wherein they engage in fantasizing something pleasant, while nevertheless believing it could never happen to them because they think it is too good to be true. This attitude is actually a pure waste of time and results in debilitating the entire mentality. You must realize that there is nothing too good to be true and nothing too wonderful to last, for the love, the light, the glory, and the riches of the cosmic energizer are the same yesterday, today, and forever. And this is why oftentimes we are sabotaged by the limiting beliefs that we hold. This idea that this is too good to be true, I would love this to be the case, but it could never possibly happen. When we go and condition our desires and think that they're impossible to happen, we are in effect just daydreaming about it. So how can we adjust this? How can we go from daydreaming about our desires to constructing imaginal acts that leave us feeling satisfied and leaving impressions? What it boils down to is two words: self-persuasion. The practice here is imagining in a way that feels fulfilling to you. It should have that degree of realness so that it can leave you feeling deeply satisfied. This is partly why Neville Goddard recommended adding tones of reality to your imaginal scene, to give it that distinction of real life and have it be more immersive and feel more actual, as if it is taking place in this present moment. Because that is one of the most important takeaways from this video. We have to practice feeling as though we have it right now, not that we are going to get this thing in the future. With daydreaming comes an element of future thinking. We are visualizing, but very much feeling like this is something that's going to happen down the line. But if that is how we are imagining, if we are very much left with the sense of not having it and getting it someday, we are essentially bringing into awareness that we do not have this thing that we are imagining. And it's going to continue to feel like fantasy. A very sneaky and subtle feedback loop that we get stuck in is perpetually thinking of our desire from a place of trying to get it, or maybe having it someday. By declaring that I am what I desire, that explicitly implies that in this present moment, I am now what I want to experience. Not, I will be. Not, when is it going to happen? Not, how do I get this thing? Not, waiting for it. If we are perpetually building these states to occupy in the future, we are going to be perpetually searching and looking and longing for quite some time. Because you are always out picturing or manifesting what you are conscious of being in this present moment. And I know time is one of those really bizarre and fickle obstacles that we have to deal with, at the very least the perception of linear time. So what we must practice doing is being what we desire right here, right now. And that is why a huge part of this practice is learning to be now in your mind the person that you want to be. If that is a loving relationship with your specific person, then practice being that version of you right now, in here. You're not pretending out here in the 3D that something is real when it's not. Instead, in your imagination, you are thinking and feeling and imagining as if it has already taken place. Keyword there is already the person you desire to be. This is why I often recommend to people to practice imagining things purely for the enjoyment of it, purely just to satisfy that craving, that desire. Just let yourself get completely immersed and wrapped up in what you want to have and what you want to be. That way, we are not unintentionally putting this thing that we desire in the future. If I am imagining to try to get something later, then I have already misstepped. I have already taken the wrong approach. Learn to imagine without condition. Learn to imagine and experience fully for the sake of enjoyment, purely for the sake of satisfying that desire in this moment. Yes, I know, it is not as good as the 3D thing. It doesn't feel as real as the 3D thing, but that is in part because for most of us, we have not exercised our imagination. I often refer to imagination like a muscle and how it operates. The more that we utilize our imagination, the stronger it gets. The more that we practice with these imaginal acts, the stronger our imagination muscle will become. And if I continue to exercise this muscle, I will inevitably be able to imagine something on the spot, fully experience it, fully immerse with it, so that I feel deeply content and no longer desiring in that moment. Now, if we find that during the day we return back to that state of wanting, that is okay. That is just feedback that it may be time to go within and give yourself that desire once again. We continue to become acclimated. We continue to become familiar with the experience that we want to have. And the more that we do this, the more natural and satisfying and enjoyable it becomes. And that's really the key takeaway. When we imagine something, it should feel enjoyable. It should feel good. It should feel like something that is deeply satisfying. But instead, for a lot of people, when they imagine, it just creates more of that wanting. It creates more of that craving. It can even make us feel sad and longing and wistful because we are just that much more aware of what we don't have. That is the distinction between futile daydreaming and an imaginal act that will plant seeds, that will leave impressions, and ultimately become outpictured in your 3D. The most important thing that we can learn and we can do for ourselves is learn to occupy the states that we construct. Learning to stop perpetually building states, but never going there, never dwelling there, never occupying them. Don't just think of your desire as some far-off fantasy that's completely unobtainable, because God's name is I am, not I will be, hopefully, someday, maybe. You have within you the creative power of all that is, that created the heavens and the earth. You have just been asleep to it. And what we will quickly find is that with practice, we can truly satisfy any urge, any desire, anything that we want. Once we learn to let ourselves just completely submerge and submit to what we are in imagination, experience it just as though you were experiencing it in the 3D, the more that we do this, the more that we practice with this, the more that we imagine boldly and completely, we will inevitably notice it must produce an internal shift within us. We will notice a difference in how we feel. We will notice a difference in our reactions, in our thoughts, in our day-to-day habits. It will begin to change us from within. And as the saying goes, what you are within is what you become without. As within, so without. Lastly, I want to part with an incredible quote from Neville Goddard that really emphasizes and breaks down this point so that you can truly grasp this important distinction here. Well, tonight, I want to show you all how to move. Because if you move from one state where you are into any state in this world, that state is waiting for occupancy. And the great fallacy of the world is perpetual construction and deferred occupancy. I don't occupy it. if I would only occupy the state I have constructed in my mind's eye? Wouldn't it be wonderful to be and name it in my mind's eye? But then I say, oh, it couldn't be. I'm not born to it. I don't have the social, educational, etc. So because I believe I can't, I remain in my present state. I am my only enemy, for the whole vast world is within myself. So tonight, learn how to move. Move from one state into another state. And it takes no time, just the willingness to let go completely. You cannot serve two masters. You either believe me or you don't. You are either with me or against me. And so burn your bridges and completely abandon yourself to a state. It seems mad, doesn't it? Sleep this night as though you were exactly the person you want to be. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope this distinction helped. If it did and you enjoyed it, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you are interested in any of my other resources, I'll have my links down below to my coaching programs, my workshops and masterclasses, my blog, my podcast, my social links. Got a ton of great resources down in that description box, so don't forget to check it out. Also, be sure to check out the other videos on this channel. Be sure to check out my Manifestation Fundamentals playlist. Each video is a different topic, but it all talks about how to manifest the best life ever. So until we meet again, you guys, as always, please take care, be well, and never forget to surrender yourself to that desired state. Burn your bridges and let go completely. Never forget how powerful you truly are. Happy manifesting, guys.